coming up, it's coming up, it's coming up, it's there.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. Clockwork Apple, and today I'm going to be reviewing the book John Dies at the End. As I said last week, this is a strange one, and I think that's probably why I like it. I've always been into some of the self-contained weirdness kind of universes that fiction can bring up, and this is definitely one of the weirdest. The plot is these two guys called John and David, and at a party they accidentally take this new drug that's been showing up here and there called soy sauce. Well, John takes it and Dave accidentally has it later when he's trying to get John to the hospital. It's a bit hard to explain. Actually, that's a lot of this book. A lot of this book is very hard to explain. Anyway, what the drug does is it lets you see what's really there. So things like ghosts, spirits, demons, the underworld, all that kind of stuff. And that's not a good thing, really. Most of the underworld and the creatures living within it hate humanity, want to kill us, torment us, and all kinds of things like that, take over our world. But there's another thing the drug does, which is just after you've taken it, you can basically do anything. You can travel through time, you can, they make a bomb out of ordinary household materials, as I travel through time, stop time, invent computers out of bits and bobs laying around the house, know things you couldn't possibly know, and all kinds of amazing stuff. And then that wears off and you're left with the seeing ghosts thing, which isn't very good. So it's kind of a risk whether or not you want to take it. Also worth mentioning, the drug has killed most of the people who take it. I think at this point there's, at least the ones mentioned in the books, there's very, very few of the people who have taken the drugs are still alive, because the book has a sequel. This book is full of spiders, one of my favourite books of all time. I'm not going to be reviewing that now. Yeah, you have to read this one first, otherwise that one won't make sense. But, as I said, very bizarre. It's actually got a lot more depth than it seems at first. It comes across as just this quirky horror comedy, but the more times you read it, the more little things you notice, and the more interesting and deep the characters can become, as you notice the subtle little writing and nuances that you didn't pick up on the first time. Yeah, so the actual characters, as I said, we've got Dave. He's the main character of the book and also the author of the book, David Wong. Real name is Jason Pargin. He's a editor on the website Cracked, which I quite like reading. But the David Wong in the book is this slightly overweight, out of shape, just this ordinary guy who wants to live an ordinary life. And obviously he gets forced into this bizarre situation that he wants nothing to do with. It's got the kind of troubled past that he doesn't like talking about, which plays into the story quite well. And then there's John, his best friend. John's the real party animal. I think he hasn't been sober for the past ever. And he, as I said, he's the one that really kicks off the plot by taking the soy sauce drug to begin with. He's quite a likable character. They write him to be a complete and utter unlikable jerk, but it works quite well because at the same time he's a jerk, but he's well-meaning at the same time. It doesn't go too far either way. Quite a lot of other characters meet through the adventure, like this guy called Big Jim, who's built like a real thug, but is a born-again Christian, so he punches someone and then takes him to the hospital to be checked up, which is quite funny. There's this detective guy who's trying to figure out what the hell is going on because of all the weird goings-on in town. The town this place takes place in is called Undisclosed. Well, it's not called Undisclosed, but they never actually give you the name. Every time it would write the name of the town, it has the word Undisclosed instead. That's just probably the best way to explain the kind of humour this book has. So the whole thing is written almost like a first-person diary or journal by the main character. And it's even implied that, well, not in this one, but in the second book, it implies that the book you're reading is actually his account of the events that happened. So it's almost implying that what happens is real, which is kind of fun. I like that. It's funny. What else can I say? Other characters, there's Big Jim, who I mentioned a second ago. There's his little sister, who Dave went to school with when he was younger. There's some more of their friends who are in John's band. John has a band described as the worst band of all time. Again, I like that. Aside from that, there's also I guess would be the real protagonist in any other book. There's this guy called Dr. Marconi, who's sort of a parody of most of the H.P. Lovecraft protagonists. He's a professor, he's well versed in these supernatural, has written lots of books, travelled the world. He's the person that would normally be the protagonist in this kind of book, and instead he's just sort of a side character who helps the main characters on. Again, this is quite a good thing, I think, for the book, as it doesn't just make the main character the cool guy, it's the loser who knows the cool guy, which is, again, pretty fun idea. The main villain is Korok. I say his name, but it's written on the back of the book, so I don't consider it too much of a spoiler to say what his name is. But basically, it's this otherworldly being trying to overtake every single aspect of the multiverse. Obviously, Dave and John are the ones who are getting in his way, thanks to the soy sauce again. Oh yes, also, the soy sauce itself is a character. It doesn't say anything, but it is alive, so there's a scene where Dave doesn't want to take the soy sauce, but the soy sauce wants him to take it, and basically it grows wings and tries to fly into his mouth. One of the pills gets into his mouth and he's forced to swallow it, and when he keeps his mouth shut like that, the second pill flies through and burrows into his face, and it's, as you're reading it, I'm squirming in pain just thinking about it. It is ridiculous. Also, the book seems to have this running joke featuring severed arms. Probably the best example of this is John's band called Three Arms Sally. There's a character who gets his arm torn off. I think there's another one who gets their arm cut off with a chainsaw. The character Amy is missing a hand, and also on the book's cover we've got this hand here, and if you open up the book like that, it's another severed hand. So that seems to be the running joke of this book, which I think is pretty funny. They don't really point it out, but every time you notice there's another severed hand, it sort of rings a little bell in your head to say there it is. Yeah, so overall, what can I say about this book? Definitely not for everyone. You need to be into the quirky horror comedy thing to get into it, and I can see that a lot of people will be turned away by this. If it's a genre you're into, I think you can definitely recommend this book. I think it's one of the better ones out there of the genre, I can say for certain. It's even worth reading just to read the sequel again. I'll review this at some point in the future, but not yet. As I said, one of my favourite books of all time, that one. Aside from that, overall, I'd say, if you're into the genre, give this book a look at. I'd give it a definite 9 out of 10. And if the genre's not too much for you, I'd probably only give it a 4 out of 10, really. It can easily turn someone away, I can see that, definitely. As much as I love the book, I can see that people will not always like it, so if you're into the genre, get it. If not, don't. If you're a bit unsure about it, be sure to check out the movie. Yeah, you can buy the DVD off Amazon relatively easily. Quite a good film. Again, bizarre, quirky, but it's not. It tones down quite a lot. Cuts off actually a huge chunk of the plot. It's like all this middle section of the book here is taken out. And basically, you get the very first part of the book, the very last part of the book, which are the main. That's where all the important stuff happens, really. So if you don't know about the book, check out the film. You might enjoy it, might not. If you enjoy the film, you enjoy the book. If you don't enjoy the film, you'll probably hate the book. So give that a shot. Anyway, join me again next week, because throughout the month of November, I'm going to be reviewing all 4 of the Studio Leica films. That's Coraline, Paranorman, Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings. All classic movies. I'm going to be reviewing them one week after another. I hope you can join me for them. I will see you then. I have been Mr. Clockwork Apple. Goodbye.